We've been back from Vegas for a day. We've sat on our thoughts. We've thought about our performances. We've wallowed in self-pity. Today, we're going to have a conversation with one of our teammates who has no self-pity to wallow in. Finished 23rd, I believe, in the Galactic Championship, going into day 3 in the 5th seed. We have Kitsye joining us today, and we were expecting him over the internet, but he showed up at my house, so this is great.
This is dedication.
Welcome to the home.
Well, thanks for having me, even if you weren't expecting me.
Yeah. So, were you expecting to perform as you did?
No, I was not. It's funny because I set goals, going into Vegas. I was meeting up with one of my oldest and closest friends, James, who played there. He's out in California. So the number 1 goal was to have a good time. Number 2 goal was to make day 3 and get the play mat. And as soon as I'm going into day 3 as the 5th seed, all the goals go out the window. It's make top 8, nothing else. I will cycle my last 2 games, which were both win-and-ins, for the next 3 months until we have another big event that I can attend. So but overall, it was a great time. I had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. I had a lot of fun meeting some of the other people, and I had a great time. So it was good.
And that's what it's about. You played Han2 Green. We were doing a lot of testing throughout the weeks, going back and forth between blue and green. We'll pull up the list here in a second. But what was the main reason you went to Han Green over Han Blue?
So I brought all the cards for 3 Han Blue decks and 3 Han Green decks because I provide lots of cards for lots of different people in my household. And to be honest, I sat behind one of the guys, James, and he was learning to really play Han Blue and dig into the matchup. And one of our other teammates, Jeremiah, beat him 15 games in a row with Han Green. And despite me trying my best to help, we were just losing every single game. And I went, okay, well, this seems like it might have a little bit of an edge in this matchup. And I knew I still wanted to play Han. I made the mistake of not playing Django at the Denver sectors, and I just said, this is powerful. I want to be doing force throw things. I want to be doing Chaotic Mundi things, and I want to come at it from a slightly different angle that everyone else is. And I do not know how many times I heard, well, we played 8 rounds, so I played 11 rounds, and I probably heard 11 times, my deck is really good against Han2 Blue, or I was expecting Han2 Blue. I have no idea what I'm going to do against Han2 Green. This is going to be a completely different thing that I'm not prepared for. So
perfect.
And that's a nice edge to have. I was originally on Han Green first. We were really working on it for a while, and I'll speak for myself, but I think, Kyle, you're on the same page. We kind of had a different experience in our testing. We had a hard time consistently having green be able to beat green. Did you finish on that as well, Kyle?
Yeah, but I think our early builds of Han Blue were a little bit different. I started with the Outer Rim Outlaws, right? A lot more shielded units, which I think green has a really hard time dealing with. So I think maybe our testing was or at least our remembrance of our testing was more jaded by that early testing when our blue builds were a little more aggressive, had a few more shields, was harder to stop. And then blue would just kind of get that early board presence and start to run over green before you could get to the good stuff, the Kellerins and whatnot. But, I really wanted to hear why Makai betrayed us and switched to green right there at the end. So I think I got my answer.
So there's this weird bell curve that sort of happens. And it's probably not actually a bell curve, but, where the 2 decks are better at various points. And so you'll have this point where you'll start to be oh, blue is really good, and then green will get good again, and then blue will get good again as you progress through the turns. And so it felt like if I know how to navigate and not turn Luke on, blue will be really good for Itinerant Warrior, but then when we get into 5 and 6, green will start to take off. And then if I can navigate and not get Luke full -6/-6, green is better again until Great Dragon. And then once you hit Great Dragon with blue, then green is worse again. And then once you start going beyond Great Dragon, green just gets better and better and better every resource.
Yep.
One of my games against the Han2 Blue, I played home 1 into Kellerin into Obi-Wan. And it's
do something about it.
And it's I can't do that if Crate Dragon's on the board because I die instantly. But if Crate's not, then hey, like, I don't really know how you respond to that as
Yeah,
a blue player.
Speaking of that curve, you didn't talk about the early part, but I imagine Gunji was really impactful for you. I would think running into the ping decks, he's probably a really good open. We don't have that available in blue. Did you find that you were trying to Gunji more often? Or, whereas on blue, I'm trying to Grogu all the time, right? So is Grogu the backup plan, Gunji the main plan? Like, how'd you find the early game went with this deck?
So it really depends what you're playing against. But let's start, like, Cad Bane, we have more lines against Cad Bane than blue does, because you just I can even just play Gunji first action, and I can go first and play Gunji, and like, what does Cad Bane do? Like, it's still good into Quinlan. Like, I have different options into Quinlan. The real deck that I have no idea how it plays out, but I imagine it's terrible, is the new Kylo deck. When we finished day 2, I was like, I need to go to sleep. But I said to Jordan, I was like, I need you to figure out what I'm doing if I play that matchup tomorrow. And that's why you need a team. Because I was like, I need to try and sleep. I need you to figure this out and figure out what are my lines. Because I've never played against this deck, that like the version at least that the Bothans were playing. And it's like, I don't know what my best open is going to be here. But as I found out against the Han 4 Tarkintown, if I get my first unit Tarkintown, it's really, really hard to win. So I need to be able to play something that survives that interaction. And having Gunji be able to survive almost all the Tarkintown decks is really powerful.
Yeah, 100%. So going through some of the matchups, we have a couple friendly fires, or at least semi-friendly fires. You started first round with Travi, who is actually like, we have a private Discord. We don't open it to the public, but we have a crew from Utah that we practice with. And Travis is one of those players, PQ winner from Utah. And you took that matchup as your first mirror of the day.
That was kind of rough to just hit a person. Also, if I played against one of you or one of the local guys, I would have immediately known what was happening. But since it's round 1, we have a lot of extra time to talk. And so we're talking through, and he's like, oh, I sort of recognize your name. And then we realize, like, oh, you're from Utah. I'm from Colorado. Like, oh, well, that's going to be unfortunate. Together. Yeah, we've been practicing together. And I was like, oh, your list looks a lot like Curtis's. Oh, because it is basically. It's Han. Okay, got it.
But going through the day, what do you think was the biggest turning point? I mean, you really were hot going into the Anakin matchup, but was that kind of out of left field for you, or how did that game go?
So there's a couple. I mean, in the 3 times that I lost throughout the day, there's a really strong theme, and that theme is bad turn 1 unit. So against that, that Anakin Skywalker. Game 1, I played Maz Kanata, which just dies to his board no matter what he plays. That's not great. Game 2, I won, and I'm on the play. Game 3, he's back on the play, and if I have anything but Gunji, it immediately dies turn 1, or I have to try and go space. And there's red 5s, but that one can be hard. I think if you're on the play with this deck against Anakin, you are widely favored. Like game 2 was a lot easier since I was on the play. But that one can be really difficult. If you look through my matches, the other thing to point out is there's a couple of decks in here, like the Iden deck, that the Iden Data Vault can be pretty awkward for the Han2 blues or the Anakin, the Anakin blues. I've been watching through some of the videos, and I think this morning I watched the one where I think it's Alex is like the first match of the day, and it's really hard for an Anakin to slog through that type of control deck, and it's like laughable for Han. The only way I think I can lose that matchup realistically, especially post board when you can answer ships, is if they vigilance you early and hit like home one tech, because the amount of value you can put out as this deck, and like it feels incredibly unfair. And then I had some friendly fire against Paul Sertostalad, who I think you guys are going to have on a little bit later. I actually woke up at 5:30 in the morning that morning. I like bolted out of bed and was like, oh my God, Paul made day 2. That's so great. What am I possibly doing if I play Luke Data Vault? Oh my God, there are no Bright Hopes in my sideboard. That's the thing I forgot. I probably shouldn't have drank so much the first 2 days before the event. But we had Friday off, so I was like, oh, I've got plenty of time. But yeah, make sure you lock in your deck list before you start consuming copious amounts of alcohol and having a great time. Vegas was great. those experiences were good.
It does seem though that type of deck is a little bit of a weakness.
Oh yeah, no. If you look like the Kylo Ren deck that I played, that was a Kylo 2 Tarkin Town. That was a space deck, and he was one action away from killing me. We were very, very close, and we went 2-1. I lost to the Han Solo, Never Tell Me the Odds. He played it very, very well. He drew incredibly well. I drew really well the first game. And so like that one can be hard, and you don't have Bright Hope. We don't have those like roadblocks. And if you start multi-piloting a 3-4, the Han Pilot Falcon, it's
tough to deal with.
Yeah,
It gets out of hand fast. Yeah.
You don't want
It's
to take
one of those situations where you literally have a turn to answer it. If you don't, it's probably GG's at that
Purgle
point.
King won't save you.
No.
Yeah.
Is that the Purgle King segue? Because I'm amped.
I would
Okay.
love to hear about Purgle
So
King.
aside from the fact that Purple King probably shouldn't be in the deck, it's incredible against Han2 Blue. That card, like one of the problems, and I would love to talk about open deck lists in a minute, but one of the problems is that like Purgle King doesn't die to Fel. It dies to Rival's Fall, but if you let me play my 7-drop at that point, that's a 4/10, and I get to draw a card, and you spend 6 to Rival's Fall me, like, excellent.
No.
That's fantastic. Let's just keep doing that. And then I'll probably have initiative going to the next turn. It's really hard to deal with. It prevents you from dying to just being slowly raced down by random units. You can't really answer like Itinerant Warrior. That feels like a lot of the times when you lose to blue, it's because you just lose the ground game, and you get to answer that, and there's almost nothing that deals with it. And people could see my list, and so the Han2 Blues, like every single Han2 Blue was like, "Oh, you have a Purgle King, huh? What does that card do?" And then they would ask, and I would explain, and they'd be like, "Oh, okay, huh? That doesn't die to Fel." I'm like, "Yep, it does not die to Fel." And so it was good for that, but realistically, I think that matchup is good enough that it was not a thing we needed. It could have been something else.
Mm-hmm. The other kind of spicy card you have here is Choose Sides. You get much use out of that in
yes.
the course of the weekend?
Yes, I sacrificed my tech to keep another unit so I could trade my opponent that unit for Avenger. That was great because I had 2 home ones in hand, so I'm like, I'm going to get tech back anyway. It doesn't matter, and now you have to answer this. And I think I got Annihilated, and if your opponent is annihilating their own Avenger, you're not losing anything out of the deck, but like, what else are they going to do? They have to use removal on it. I honestly still think that with the tech in the deck, you probably don't need it. We probably don't need the Choose Sides. It's fun, and it's good, but like, I think the version of the deck that I would play today, given the experiences and knowing what I know now, like I wouldn't include either of those cards, but they were good for me on the day. Like they were both strong. There's another thing is open deck lists is incredible for General's Blade. So I didn't see very many opponents writing down cards in my list. I don't know why. It was a thing we were allowed to do. I just had to put my phone away, and then I could write down cards. And a lot of times I wasn't writing down full cards, but if you ever looked at my notes, it was just no answer to General's Blade in the main, or no 3-mana answer. I had opponents who could eventually stop it. Like I played against McBobber, and he was playing a really cool Flip Palpatine list, and there was zero chance he would have won game 1 because he has no way to answer General's Blade, and I General's Bladed, and I'm playing 4 drops and 7 drops, and by the time he can do anything about it, he's just already dead. Mm-hmm. And that was my experience 4 or 5 times throughout the day, where I would just look at people's lists, and because I knew I am a very cautious player normally, which does not go well with General's Blade, but given perfect information, like it made that interaction very free, and I could very confidently just go like, if I play Gunji and then I play General's Blade, I will win the game. And every single time I did it, I won the game. So
it looks like the changes, right, are Parliamentarian, Bright Hope.
Yes, I think Parliamentarian is going to be really good in this deck. I have not played enough of this new matchup to know if we can even survive that far. It really hurts us that the Kylo deck can kill anything you play on turn 1 with Force Throw, or can kill it with Migs. Migs is almost impossible to answer. When Jordan and I were talking through lines for MiGs. It feels like you probably have to play a sacrificial unit, like Grogu. You're playing Grogu on 1 if they have MiGs so that they'll kill it, and then you're hoping to timely Gunji on 2, that's a very hard set of cards to have. I think that matchup is awkward. If you could stabilize, though, the fact that Keller and Beck can go and play Parliamentarian, you can reset like that portion of the game, and that's what I would try currently. The other thing I did was I took out the Cassian Andor, which could be good against some of the later decks, and I added another Addy, because against decks that play Tarkin Town, like the Han Solo 4 deck, or just any of the other decks that are Tarkin Towny, but sometimes you play past games because you can go later, like CAD. I really want a unit that I can play on 1 that doesn't just get Tarkin Town anyway. And anytime I had to play something into a Tarkin Town deck and it just gets Tarkin Town for free, those are games that I felt very, very bad in. So having 8 possible cards between Grogu and Gunji and Addy feels like it might be the correct line.
Yeah, I feel the same way in Han Blue, which is why you're seeing more of the Force Crafties. If you look at the list that finished in the top 8, I believe both of them are on 3 times Force Crafties, right? You need those turn 1 plays that just don't immediately die to these Tarkin Town decks, so you can at least get the Force on and get going. One card I had a question about, at least that I was playing in Han Blue, was Big Poe. I've gotten a little disenchanted with Big Poe. I think he's probably on his way out. How did he perform for you in green?
So one thing that green does that blue doesn't is timely. I have 3 timelies.
Yep.
I would not go anywhere without at least one of the Poes. I feel like he gives you the combination of, like, you have Mace for timely, you have Poe for timely, you can timely Yodas. Like, there were various points throughout the day where an opponent would just flip a leader thinking they're mostly safe to like Hammerhead, or they're going to be safe to Mace Windu, and it's like, yep, I still have timely Poe. We're still just doing, we're still going to do the normal like things that you can do in green red. I wouldn't play too many of them because this deck doesn't really want to discard all of its cards. You're trying to play Hammerhead, and if you discard 2 cards to Poe, then your Hammerhead's not very effective. But having that option has still felt really, really good.
How about the sideboard one we didn't talk about? There's Yoda's lightsaber. I mean, you're already running General's Blades main. When are you trying to bring that in? What's it for?
Basically any deck that you're just hard racing. Anytime I'm taking out Crate, I'm playing Yoda's lightsaber. So Sabine, it's great against Sabine. And the reason is those decks have Disabling Fangfighter. They have Confiscate. They have all of that. I am willing to pay 2 and gain 3 life and say, hey, do you have one of those cards, or are you tapped out? Like, where are we at here? Because oftentimes I'm just going to try to flip and put a Yoda's lightsaber on my leader and punch you for 6. Because we're not going to get to Crate Dragon. I've never gotten to Crate Dragon against Sabine. You don't even really get to home one usually. You leave those in the deck because you can throw them with Force Throw, or you can play Yoda sometimes as a 7 and immediately gain life. We just found that. Oh, what were we gonna say?
Thought the answer was going to be, I got a lightsaber pack and I just want to play with my cool Yoda's lightsaber.
No, I was there before.
I have not opened that yet. No, the Yoda's lightsabers are great. We found that I was actually losing to Sabine with this deck if the Sabine was willing to trade and attack my units early. The worst possible thing Sabine can do, especially if I can see their deck lists, is they can play a turn 1 space unit. So turn 1, my first opponent of day 3, he played Green Squadron A-Wing on turn 1. And I was like, oh, okay, this game's over. I win. We'll go to next game because I have Gunji plus Sword, and I know you have no answer. And now you can't kill it. If he plays...
He can't trade out.
Yeah, he can't trade out. He can't Fleet Lieutenant. The thing you're afraid of with this deck is them playing a 3-3 or a 2-3 on turn 1 and then Fleet Lieutenanting into your play. Because then I have to play Obi-Wan if I want a sword. Otherwise, we trade. If you get Fleet Lieutenanted by a Sabine deck and they kill your first play and they keep their play, that's a very dangerous aspect for you to be in. That's not where you want to be at.
Yep, that's totally fair on that one. Makes sense.
So you mentioned that you want to talk about the event. Your thoughts overall. Before you do that, I got one last question for you.
Yes.
Would you play this deck this weekend?
No. I would not play this deck this weekend because everyone is going to be playing Kylo Tarkin Town just because it looks so much fun, and I do not think that is a good matchup. I think that 2 weeks from now, maybe. And maybe people can't source the cards that fast. One of our teammates is going to Gen Con. A couple of our teammates are going to Gen Con. and they're probably, some of them are going to play it, some of them are not. And if you're playing into a random field, yes, I think the deck is very, very good. If you're playing into the field where everyone is excited about Kylo Tarkentown and excited about Talzin, though neither of those are decks I'm really, really excited to play against. I think green might have a better shot against Talzin than blue, but I don't know. I didn't play any of the new Talzin lists that are running Ki-Adi-Mundi in the sideboard and have additional ways to interact with you. So I'm not really sure on that matchup.
Got it. So what are your thoughts on the event?
Okay. So to be clear, I think the main event went really well. I think they did a good job. I think there were some very questionable judge things. To add to our list of judge complaints, in the middle of my first round on day 3, a judge just walked up and asked me and my opponent about my sideboard notes and if I'd done them properly. And luckily, my opponent was an honest person and just said, yeah, he put his phone away and then he took them. Why? But it was like, if you weren't going to be there for that call, what happens if my opponent, who's down a game, just says, no, he didn't do that? And now I have to battle out with this opponent on whether or not things are going. And some people are honest, but as I've heard from other people, that was not always the case. If we're just flipping cards over randomly because we think we know what they are, I don't want to necessarily be in these situations. And so it was weird for that judge to just walk over and put us on the spot like that. And it was fine and everything proceeded. But it's if these games are that important and I'm at the top table, the number 1 and 2 seeds are playing at the end of the table I'm on. These are some of the most important games. They're deciding top 8. Why are you not here at the beginning of the round if this is a thing you're concerned about?
That's
Agreed.
one thing that I would say 100%. I think that I've seen, and I don't want this to be a blanket statement, but I've seen a lot of judges use that time where they're sitting down next to you as a chance to get off their feet, right? And my feet hurt too, but
I will say,
focus attention.
My experience, despite losing my on-camera feature match, my experience there was great. I had the guy who was watching us and helping us. He was like, I need to stop you guys after game 1. Every time you use Kellerin, you are shuffling the cards and you are presenting them to your opponent, and he is saying it's fine. And I asked every single person all day, do you want to cut? No one ever said yes, but I was like, one day I'm going to run into the guy who does want to cut, and I won't have offered. And he said, but I need him to tap the deck because otherwise the internet is going to say that you are cheating because they can't hear this interaction. And so he was there trying to protect us and just say, I don't want you to get flamed if we actually post this video. I don't want there to be any problems because you're clearly following all the protocols, but that's just not what they can hear. I was like, oh, okay. So I liked that. There were certain things that had some foresight. Getting to the rest of the event, okay, so I also had a day 1 bye. I played one side event. It was miserable. The entire experience was miserable. We were only able to play side events because I had tickets to give to you guys right then. I loaned you tickets. I handed out tickets at the beginning of the day because luckily my other 2 people had tickets and they were playing the main event, so we could try to do that. That was one aspect. And we waited in line for about an hour and a half, and we played 5 minutes of game. The guys we were with didn't want to split. And so I was like, I played 5 minutes of game for 200 tickets, and you want me to go back and stand in line for another hour and a half? No, I'm going to go see a show with my wife instead. Nope, I'm not doing this. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll try again. I don't care. By the time we did get back, I think it was 5 o'clock. We came in to check on you guys. We walked in the door. I was willing to play a side event, and they were like, if you're not in the line already, it's closed. And I was like, okay, that's fine. There's 3 more hours, but all right, maybe that's all planned ahead of time. I will say, they lied to my face or to my wife's face, I think 5 times. So 1, we walked up to the prize wall and we asked, how many prizes do you have? Are there going to be okay? And we straight got told there is no way we will run out of Darth Vader and Luke showcases. We sleeved them all. I know how many there are. There is no way. Yep. Okay. So that's a lie. They clearly ran out. The second time, one of our teammates realized that he could buy and exchange things. He could buy, and he could just buy his Luke and Vader by buying event tickets and trading them in. And when I did the math, I went, oh, wait, that's way better. We should just do that. And so we went and talked and said, hey, is this okay? We wanted to make sure. And so my wife went and talked all the way like down the line. She talked to the judges, then she talked to the event organizers, she talked to everyone she could possibly need to talk to. And they said, yes, we will let you exchange. This is the exchange rate. So we bought tickets and we didn't use them immediately because why would you? Why would you do that if there's all these showcases and it's fine? We might not need them. We might actually want to play events. They might attempt to play events tomorrow. And then we got there the next day and they said, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. So I was like, great, okay. So we're going to follow up on that. So that's the second time they just directly lied to me. The third time was when they said, hey, we've got enough stuff for you guys for day 3. Don't worry, we have things set aside for you. Yeah, I do not have one of everything. I have tons of stuff. My things are great. If I showed you what I have, people would say, stop complaining. I got tons of black packs. I did great in the event. I'm blessed in that manner. I don't have a Mace Windu. I don't have a Krennic. I got the last one and I gave it to somebody else, but there were 15 people behind me in line still who didn't end up being able to get Krennic because there were just no more Krennics. They did not have Kylos for us. They didn't have Rays for us. There was a bunch of things that they just didn't set aside enough. It's math. I don't know who was in charge of this, but I can see the number of people who could possibly make day 3. We can do the math. I'm pretty sure Paul had done the math before we left there.
Yep.
Set aside all the stuff for that. That's not very difficult to do. And there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, well, this was FFG's first big event. Look, I can forgive you accidentally posting the deck lists. That was the first time, as far as I know, they've had a multi-day event. They probably didn't think about it. Everybody's tired. Whoever did that, that sucks.
They're feeling
oh, yeah, they feel terrible. I can forgive that. That's an actual mistake. The rest of these things are business mistakes. And last time I checked, there have been other games that have been putting on events that are this big for years. So we can look at any of that. We can go and we can look and say like, hey, does it work when you sell playmats for your event and you let the first guy in line buy all of them? That happened at a Magic event. We should be better than that. FFG should be better than that, and they weren't. They just weren't better than that.
The experience.
Yep. They didn't learn from the other people who've done it. So there's no reason for us to give you leeway on this and say, well, it was your first thing. It's not. It's not your first thing, and it's not the first thing that's been held. Now, the location, fantastic. I have terrible back issues, and those were the best seats I've ever played a card game in. Yes. I've been playing card games for years. It's fantastic. The vendor side of the hall, with the TIE Fighter, with the droids, all of that was great. That was fantastic. I had a great time on that side. We took pictures. I thought they handled that whole section fantastically. It was great. It was a really good experience to have there. I felt like we were sort of getting in the vibe of Star Wars. You know, it didn't feel like I was just coming into an empty hall to play where there was nothing for me to look at, no interaction. Because that's what Denver was. And that was a thing. I mean, they didn't run that by themselves. That was put on by Star City. But hey, they're representing you. Maybe combined, you guys want to put some effort in and you know, make sure that we actually care about the event that we're running. Mm-hmm. I did like that we did have a lunch break built in. That was good. Get us a lunch break. That can be important. I also like that we didn't start really until 10. And they mostly started on time. And like I said, the main event ran fairly smoothly. I'm trying to think. I've already written a really long email to FFG because they said, hey, like, I know you guys want to post in Discord about all of this, but like write us an email and we'll be responsive. So I've got a really long email that I've put together about just all of the things that sort of went horrendously wrong and that I find unacceptable. Like, you guys already talked about it and I was glad you covered it, but like, it's not that hard to have a system where you get badged for the things that you buy or setting limits. It's not difficult to set limits. I mean, you should have someone on your staff who's in charge of getting this done. And like the fact that I had to give someone who was a VIP, they paid $500 and I had to give this man tickets because he did not have tickets to play events. Yep. Because you're out of what did you think all the day one people were going to do? We all had buys. We were just going to sit there and do nothing. You have no ticket. Like, how? It's so simple. And it's not on the people there. The people there, they're just working. They're trying as hard as they can. They've been given limited directions. There's not nearly enough judges. I know we were sort of harsh on some of the judge calls that were made, but the actual judges were working as hard as they could. There's like 8 judges for 500 of us day one, and they have no idea how they're going to organize it or what's going to be put forward. And they're not really in charge of building the structure of how payments are received and how things are transferring over. Like, that's not on them. They're doing the absolute best that they can.
A lot of them are volunteers.
Oh, exactly. They're people working. I talked to multiple people who flew here and had buys, and they were like, I'm having a terrible time in America. I stood in line yesterday to get my stuff, and then we just stood in line, and now it's the luncheon, so we had to drop because we wanted to go to the luncheon, and now I'm standing in line with you right now for the luncheon for about an hour. And then we got in there, and maybe some other people, maybe some of the Bothans or someone can tell me, because I think they got in there before me. Maybe they can explain to us if they ever told us where these, like the FFG creator people who I could have talked to were going to be, but like none of that was obvious. Like, they started moving and taking down the luncheon stuff like 30 minutes into us actually being there, which was kind of a strange experience because it was supposed to be like an hour and a half, and things started disappearing and moving around, and it did feel kind of rushed. And granted, they gave us cool swag, and that's great. I like things. I like play mats. I like boxes. But like, there are other tournaments that I can go to from other games where they give me all that stuff and they give me money. There's actual cash prizing. So like, if the only thing you're offering me is something that you can just print, you better have enough for all the people. I don't have a Darth Tyrannus exclusive. That was the other time they lied to me. I forgot about that. That was the one that I was like, oh, don't worry, I'm playing in the main event. Hey, how many of us are playing day 3? Oh, there's like 72 of us still alive in day 3. Hey, why didn't we just
40 of them?
Why didn't we just set aside 70, 100? Hey, there's probably people playing in day 2 of the Open. Hey, set aside them for them. It's not that difficult. Don't like. Why are we letting people get 6? Why, and like the person running it right then at that time, that's not on them. They don't know. I'm not expecting you to be able to pick out one guy who just comes over and over again. You might eventually figure it out. I don't even know what the line system was like because I was busy. I was busy trying to play in the event. You like, this is your main event. Why am I having to worry about these things? I'm pretty sure one of you got up. Was it you, Kyle, who got up in the middle of your match and you and your opponent like ran over and got them, and you guys just said like, hey, these 2 other people will watch our things so we don't touch anything, and like we're not trying to cheat, but like that. How is that the plan we have? Like, how is this?
Plan's a really strong word in that case, actually.
Yes. How is this the experience? So, like,
and with all that being said, we all had a great time.
Oh,
we're all going back.
Yeah. Well,
we're a bunch of idiots.
I'll see. There are other things I can do. I work weekends. So every single time, and like next March, I'll hopefully not be on weekends anymore, but every single time I go to an event, I have to take time off. So if I want to play in a PQ, I have to take time off. If I want to go to any of these things, I have to take time off. And if you're asking me to put in all this time so I can go qualify for your event, do I even want to buy next year? If it means I'm just going to sit there the first day and not be able to play? Aside, like, if I was guaranteed that I still would have made day 2 if I played day 1, I would have just played. I would have played because it would have been fun and it would have been enjoyable, and I could have talked to more people and seen more things, and it would have been better than just the experience I had day 1, which was fairly horrendous.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't horrendous. Thank you for joining. Welcome to my home. We'll have you back on for some more gameplay soon, another podcast appearance, so you get another rant out. Appreciate you coming in, and congrats on the win. Thanks for representing.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Appreciate you being here, buddy.
Well done.